Hello, this is Talip Küçükcan. I welcome you on behalf of TRT World Digital Debates. Today we are going to discuss the last natural gas discovery in Turkey. The title of this session is Turkey's Energy Security, the Impact of Black Sea Gas. Today we have Taha, Meli, Arvas as our guest. Thank you, Taha, for joining us. Before we move on to questions, yes, I just would like to introduce Taha to our audience. Taha Meli Arvas is a financial economist at the Daily Sabah newspaper published in Istanbul. He is a commentator to global TV networks on economic issues and financial matters. Taha earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Biomedical Engineering and a Bachelor of Science degree in Finance from Syracuse University. And he also studied politics. And then he went on to earn a Master of Science degree in Financial Engineering and a Master's in Business Administration degree. So he is a well-known person in terms of writing and commenting on financial matters. Taha, yesterday, President Erdogan announced that Turkey has discovered a large natural gas reserve in the Black Sea. So this was a huge news in Turkey, actually. It was a cause of celebration for many people. I just want to ask you, what was your first reaction, your personal reaction? Secondly, how it was received outside Turkey. Now you are in the US, and I think you have read newspapers and you look at the commentators, how it was seen in the US as well.
I think I'll start with your first question first. My first reaction was, this is good news. For whenever we have an economic recession globally in the world, wherever you are in the world, and I'm thinking back to the Great Depression times and other periods of time where economic instability rocks the world, it's good to have projects that maximize employment. So I'm in the United States now, I'm in New York, and when I walk around, I see stores closed all over the place. The airports are empty. The airlines are, the airplanes are flying empty. The hotels are empty. I've been traveling around several states for meetings, and this is what I've been seeing. I was recently in Alaska a few days ago, and I visited some oil companies there, and they're also talking about how they've been affected. Obviously, the demand destruction that has happened globally is what is causing this. Natural gas is natural gas and oil, and these type of things are obviously commodities and can be traded and shipped some more easily than others. So the global demand for these type of things is important, not only for Turkey but for everyone. So my first reaction was, great, this is going to increase employment. This is the first thing. I heard a lot of people talking about, and we'll get to this later maybe, so I'll just briefly touch on it. We can go to those questions later, obviously, but is it feasible? Will this be profitable? Is it even possible? These are the first questions that I heard people talking about. The Black Sea has natural gas. This isn't a secret. I expected the Turkish Petroleum to come across it. The Romanians already have. Exxon invested heavily in Romanian waters, and they actually also investigated Turkish waters for natural gas. Why they pulled out, I think it was because of tax reasons, frankly. Who knows? But the one thing that I have learned, about a year ago, I was consulting for a company that did natural gas and oil exploration, so I quickly had to learn a lot about it. The one thing that I did learn in that period was there are huge differences in cost structures, right? So Exxon or Shell or whatever these companies have incredible overhead, just ridiculous overhead. So it may cost them $1 to extract, per cubic meter for natural gas, whereas $2, $3, $4 to extract natural gas, whereas it could cost Turkey half that or a quarter of that, and that has happened. And the reason is, and I'll just briefly get on this, we'll get back to it. Turkey has invested heavily in its exploration. All the ships we hear about, these ships that the president was talking about, these search vessels, these are all owned by Turkey, not because Turkey wanted to, frankly, but because there were de facto sanctions for buying these ships for European companies to lease them, to Turkey because they were going to do exploration in the Mediterranean. So Turkey had to buy them, but ultimately that may have been a good decision. So anyway, in short, in brief, I wanted to just answer your question. The short answer is I was very excited. I believe it will it will decrease unemployment, and it will help. Obviously, we'll get to the financial stuff later. Turkey's global macroeconomic outlook.
So, what did you read in the U.S. media about this discovery? How it was received in terms of financial issue, in terms of Turkey's standing in general? Did you see anything so far?
I read a lot of different newspapers and online things and Twitter, etc. So it wasn't on the front page of any newspaper, frankly, because America is busy with a lot of other things, including their own economic problems, as well as the election we have. Wherever I'm going, there's people have in their yards, they have these signs for all these congressmen, and Nancy Pelosi just endorsed some candidate who's a challenger, et cetera, et cetera. So these are the more domestic. In general, American news is almost never international. It's almost always American news. So, even the Lebanese explosion that happened, which was, major, 90% of Americans have no idea that it happened. That's just the thing. Americans really don't know much about foreign countries. That's just the reality. And I speak from experience. So that is the thing. So, but when you delve into it, if you go on, Bloomberg or Reuters, et cetera, they're talking about the promise of this exploration, the size of it, and how there may be future sites to explore, and that's important. I think investors care about these things, sophisticated investors, and they're very much looking into this because it's not just about this one field. It's about getting this, increasing the core competency, allowing Turkey to do this, and planning for the future, not only in the Black Sea, not only in the Mediterranean. What's stopping Turkey from doing this all over the world with the partner countries who have been exploited, frankly, by all these foreign countries like Shell? And I mean, if you just Google Shell bribery scandal, these companies go all over the world and bribe all these politicians and steal the natural resources of these countries and make multi-billions and billions of dollars. So if Turkey can play it safe and help those countries and invest in those countries, they can do so with a much lower cost structure and benefit in general.
Taha, you, I think, briefly touched on what I was going to ask you about the Turkey's ability and skills in terms of economic skills, in terms of technical skills to explore gas and oil in the region. How do you compare Turkey with the neighboring countries? This is my first question. What follows?
With what neighboring countries? Okay,
yeah. Because in the Mediterranean, in the Black Sea, Turkey is there. In the Aegean, I think Turkey is surrounded by sea, so there is a lot of potential over there to discover.
Sure.
Secondly, so how long it will take to transfer this natural gas into economy in Turkey? Because many people, might say, well, it's been discovered. Yes, that's fine, but it will take ages that the people see the benefit of it in their own pockets. So how long it will take to bring it to the markets?
So the first question, let me answer the last question first. 3 years or less than 3 years for this to occur is a very aggressive target. These things generally take 4 or 5 years. But in my experience in Turkey, there are many projects that should take 5 or 6 years that Turkey has sped up and done. So if the will is there, then it's possible to do it. Really, it depends on how much money you throw at the project. It depends on how important it is to the country to do this. That's the short answer. The short answer is it possible for this to be done by 2023? Sure. Will it be difficult? Of course, but everything worth doing is difficult. Getting back to the other question, how is Turkey relative to other countries in the area? Well, Turkey has been doing this for several years. About 3 or 4 years ago, there was a paradigm shift in Turkey's energy exploration and energy awareness. Let's put it that way. Obviously, many things changed after 2016. And one of them was that Turkey began to invest in human resources from abroad, both foreign nationals who are experts in this field, as well as Turkish expats that they invited back to Turkey to help with these explorations. And Turkey quickly gained both experience and competencies in these areas. Because this is a decision that you have to make as a policymaker. Will we be exploring? As a country, do we want to spend money or do we want to invest in the future of exploring for natural resources in our territory, as this is what Turkey has asked itself? And they answered with yes, or we could outsource it to the Dutch, we could outsource it to the Americans, we could outsource it to the British. The Middle East history, the Middle East map exists as it does now because of foreign companies coming in and exploring for natural gas, for oil, etc., and drawing countries, making up literally, drawing on a map ridiculous borders because of where the oil is. I don't want to insult any country specifically, but there are countries that exist for the sole purpose of exploiting those natural resources. If you go to Africa, you talk with world leaders there, I've heard of people say, we have an agreement with the French. The French are notorious, perhaps the worst offender. The Dutch are pretty bad as well, but the French are the worst in this respect. And they say, no, we'll split everything 50-50. No problem. After costs, we'll split everything 50-50. And you ask the Minister of Energy there, and you say, well, how much money did you get from the 100 billion or the 100 million, whatever, let's say $100 that was extracted in wealth last year? And they say, we only got $3. And you ask them, how is that possible? I thought it was 50-50. Well, the French say, yes, it's 50-50, but, we get 50%, and then we spent $97 million, doing this. So you only get 3%. And that's $97 million is the employee, the employment contracts of these French expats, of the French government, former French government officials, etc. So they're really going into these countries and like strangling them for all the wealth. And this is not, you don't have to take my word for it. Anyone can, after this conversation or during this conversation, Google, Total bribery, Shell bribery, any oil company and bribery, and you'll see that this is a pattern all over the country, all over the world. And some African leaders are okay with it. Some don't like it, but they have literally, 10,000 foreign troops in their palace that will shoot them if they decide not to do this. So, and this isn't, like I said, exaggeration. I'm not going to name names, but this is something I know for firsthand.
Right, then that means
that's where we are. So this is
there is a lot of potential for Turkey to explore gas and oil, far away countries from Turkey, as you have just said. Now right. Let me touch on the geopolitical significance of that discovery. When you look at the Middle East, especially, and some of the African countries, oil or the gas, these are critical, I think, assets. Sometimes people see it as a curse, actually, when you look at how the, foreign intervention takes place. How do you think that discovery will change Turkey's geopolitical position, or what is the impact and significance of such discovery for countries like Turkey? Because Turkey, it was some kind of energy hub, but the energy from Russia and from Azerbaijan and also from Iraq, Turkey transferring all those things. We did not have it, but now Turkey has it. So how does change things on the ground?
It changes a lot, frankly. I mean, just to begin with, yes, there is this black gold curse, this curse of oil and natural gas that we've heard. And it's not just the Middle East. If you look at Norway and Sweden, they border each other. The people are ethnically very similar. The weather is the same. They're almost everything. A lot of things are the same. Maybe more fishing in Norway, but other than that, they're very much the same. And you have this huge sovereign wealth fund, the largest wealth fund that the Norwegians have. They've made a very good step in kind of protecting that for the future. But more importantly, because they're so rich and because their people are so, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say complacent, but relative to the the Swedish, their exports are far fewer. Think of the major Scandinavian brands, IKEA or Saab or, some of them not doing so well recently, Volvo, or all these other Swedish companies that don't come to mind now that are huge. They don't exist in Norway. And why is that? It's because, listen, if you grow up rich, it's the rich kid curse. If everyone is rich in the country, they have no need to work, to explore, to invent, then they don't. And that's the difference between Sweden and Norway in general. And these aren't my words. Like I said, there's papers on this topic. The same goes for the Middle East, obviously, and other countries where this curse occurs. So I don't think Turkey's, first of all, the amount of natural gas found is significant, but it's not that significant. It's not enough to make, everyone in Turkey isn't going to get a Lamborghini tomorrow and drive around in Ferraris. That's not going to happen overnight. Not at least with what we're seeing here. But even if we have that, even if Turkey had those resources, that's something that shouldn't happen. And I think the model that the Norwegians have executed on the surface appears to be a better model to preserve that wealth for future generations.
Right. There is a tension in the Eastern Mediterranean between Turkey and Greece, and also between Turkey and the, let's say, a large or grand coalition. Do you think that will give and send some messages to those, I think, circles? Because Turkey, I think, will continue to drill, Black Sea, but also the ships and vessels are also in the Mediterranean. How do you think this will change, let's say, the power balance when it comes to technological skills of Turkey?
I think the first thing, the first issue immediately will be Turkey has been successful in this area in the Black Sea. That's the first thing. If it's able to extract this natural gas, if it's able to ship it, if it's able to use it, sell it, etc., this will be a very important first step. This means that should Turkey find similar reserves in the Mediterranean, they can do the same thing. Its execution here is very important. If they can execute, if Turkish policymakers can execute here, Turkish Petroleum, their exploration company, TİPİK, etc., then that's a major step forward. Otherwise, it's just, Turkey's in the Mediterranean now, great, they're just hanging out, great, but no, there's nothing behind it at this point. But now that this Black Sea exploration has yielded results, that's going to be the next step. As for Greece, obviously this is a policy thing, it's more politics than finance, but I see that the Greeks themselves may not have as big an issue with Turkey exploring the Mediterranean, because Greece itself, by itself, is not a power similar to as Turkey is. It's being used, I think, Greece is being used by other European countries for leverage, and that's really sad. I think Turkey and Greece are similar in many, many ways. I would say the Greeks are more similar to Turks than they are the French, than they are to the Finns or the Portuguese even, or the Spanish, maybe the Spanish or less. But what I'm trying to say is Turks and Greeks have a lot in common. They can work together in many areas. It's unfortunate what's happening, and it's just a political game, unfortunately, that some of the European countries are playing. But this will be, in short, yeah, go ahead.
I think you have touched on something that is still under planning. Turkey and Greece. Turkey and Greece had some talks and mediated by Germany. And I think there was some kind of improvement and progress, as explained by Ibrahim Kalın, who is the presidential spokesperson. Right before the announcement of that diplomatic negotiation, I think Greece has announced this agreement with Egypt. Then Turkey, I think, suspended. But still, I think that there are some news in the newspapers and in the media that such talks will resume, again, negotiating between two countries led by Germany. So there is still a hope, I think, window of opportunity for both countries to come closer, at least. Now, you have been writing, on energy, but also on largely financial issues. Now, let's look at the financial impact of that discovery for Turkey, because Turkey spends almost $40 billion per year for energy expenses. So what does that mean for Turkey? Discovery of this. What is the financial value of that discovery anyway? I think that there should be some kind of, predictions as well.
So there are 2-3 ways to look at it. The first one is how much natural gas is this actually? Well, if Turkey is able to extract this natural gas, we're looking at 7 or 8 years worth of use of Turkish natural gas. So Turkey could use up all this natural gas if it extracts all of it in 7 or 8 years. That's the first thing. So it's not a 500-year amount of natural gas. That's the first thing. That's okay. The second question is, what's the value of this natural gas? Right? What's the value to Turkey? And this is a more difficult question. And you have to look at it from, and I keep hearing people saying, is it feasible? Is it, at these prices, is it worth it to invest in this? And it brings me back to a discussion I had with one of my relatives years ago, and they said that, their father had told them, they were doing some math at the end of the year about some large piece of land they owned. And they said, we have this land, and last year we spent, let's say, $1 million on employment, and $1 million on capex, and all the products that we sold from agriculture, we sold for 2 million, which means we made zero. We made zero profit, is what one of the people said. And the gentleman's father said, that's not true. We didn't make any profit necessarily, but we employed, 1,000 people or whatever the number was back then. 1,000 people benefited, 1,000 families benefited from this, from our investment. So even though we didn't make any profit necessarily, and those 1,000 families spend money. They consume. They go to the supermarket, they go to a restaurant, they buy a car, they buy a house. There are secondary, tertiary effects of this investment. So yes, natural gas prices are low in Turkey, not in Turkey in general, all over the world. They used to be $14+. Now it's, a fraction of that. But even if this natural gas is extracted at cost and sold at cost, or even less, if it's extracted and sold at a loss, which I don't think is going to happen. But even if you do that, then you have to do the math and say, how much has the tax base increased because of this? How much has Turkey not exported dollars with? Or how much are our foreign reserves decreasing or not decreasing because of this keeping the money in the country type situation? This is where you do the math. So I think people who say, well, it's $1 trillion worth of natural gas, it's going to take us 7 or 8 years to extract, 10 years to extract, maybe more. And if you do the back of the envelope, that's $200 billion. It's not a lot. This is, I think, a mistake to say, only because this will mean, not unlike the Tennessee Valley Authority, where people just, during the Great Depression, just dug ditches, really, This is a similar, it's much more efficient, obviously, than the Tennessee Valley Authority, but it will increase employment considerably, and that will have a lot of impact. That's the main thing. Right now, if you look around the world, during this essentially another Great Depression we're having, and I'm sitting in New York where I can see with my own eyes that it's happening again. That unless America does something, it's going to go back into that type of major recession. People are looking for growth. People are looking for a story to invest behind. Foreign investors aren't investing in Turkey because they like the baklava or because they like the weather or whatever. They're investing because they see growth. They see a potential for return on their investment. And that's why they do invest in Turkey. And this is just another one of those stories. And it will add to the tool belt of Turkish policymakers to increase employment. And that's very important. I think that's more important even than the profit that we're talking about if Turkey extracts all this natural gas.
I think there is also one more dimension that we can maybe touch on. Turkey largely depends on foreign energy resources. Turkey doesn't have its own energy resources. At least partly that will liberate Turkey. Partly Turkey will not 100% be dependent on energy coming from outside. Maybe we can also look at this issue, not necessarily natural gas. In recent years, Turkey has been, I think, trying to diversify some of the energy sources, like renewable energy, these sort of stuff. What are the potentials in Turkey to invest and also to get back, investment growth money from this kind of ventures?
So this is very important. I think the question that when you value something, there are some things that are very difficult to value. And here's the question: what's the value of self-sufficiency? How much is it worth for Turkey or for any other country to say, I don't need to contact another country and ask for X, Y, Z? In the United States, there are some agricultural products. The United States spends heavily on agriculture because it sees that this is something that it needs to be self-sufficient with. If a war breaks out, the United States fights the entire world. That's okay because it has enough agriculture to live, to sustain itself. I mean, if you go to the heartland of America, the central part where all this corn is planted and it's being sold at a loss every year, that's okay because that means the country is self-sufficient. So Turkey is far from self-sufficient, unfortunately, energy-wise. A lot closer now than it was, yesterday or 3-4 days ago. But this is something that has incredible value. And it's difficult to put a number on, but like I said, these vessels were purchased by Turkey because they couldn't be leased, because the European companies that wanted to lease them to Turkey couldn't do that because they were afraid of sanctions for Turkey's exploration in the Mediterranean. So this self-sufficiency is critical. You talked about other energy sources and other energy resources. Obviously hydroelectric is huge. Turkey has all these rivers passing through it, all this water moving that's turning into electricity. Very important. Wind energy, solar energy. These are all energy areas that Turkey is investing heavily in. So I think this is important for everyone, for all Turkish policymakers to realize that Turkey is moving away from this dependence on foreign imports, and this is actually very worrying. This will affect the politics. If I was a country, that made all my money or made a lot of money by exporting to Turkey, and suddenly these people are self-sufficient, I would be very worried. I would do whatever I could to change the policymakers. I would not be happy with the situation, because the French, like Total, they go to a foreign country. I'm not going to name names. You think of all the ones that come to mind. Even Iran. Frankly, France has been in Iran since the beginning. The Ayatollah Khomeini came to Iran from Paris, mind you. So the French benefited almost the most from that transaction. But Total has been there for decades, and they made billions and billions of dollars. So imagine if the Iranians say tomorrow, we don't need anyone else. Obviously now they're sanctioned, so that they're kind of forced to do something like that. But to make a long story short, I'm trying to say this is very important, being self-sufficient. If a country is self-sufficient, especially as far as energy goes, it's a major upgrade in their stature and their status. So this is something I don't value, and I don't remember. Yeah.
I think many of the Turkish politicians and policymakers are actually focusing on this self-sufficiency more than the economic impact these days. Yes, of course, economy will be an important maybe aspect of that, but also Turkey will be more self-sufficient. Not only self-sufficient, of course, when it comes to energy, Turkey still needs a lot of other resources to be supplemented. And also, you are an economist, and you all know that, especially countries like India, China, Japan, the countries that are growing fast, they need more energy. And I think we should also look at this aspect of Turkey as well. Turkey now is moving towards more production-based economy that will be exported later on, rather than just construction industry. I think then Turkey needs more energy. Will need more energy. So this is going to be an important maybe addition to the energy that Turkey needs. The growth is necessarily, I think, associated with some kind of energy needs. So Turkey's energy needs will grow if Turkey, of course, invest in manufacturing. But you said something quite interesting, intriguing actually. You said, when there's a self-sufficiency, when Turkey doesn't want to buy from other countries, companies, international companies, global companies, and some governments maybe will not be happy about that, and they will try to change governments. So we heard it from Biden, for example. I think maybe you can comment on that as well. The political stability, what will happen in such cases to the political stability? I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories, but there's
no need to.
There's a literature in the Go ahead, please, Taha.
There's no need to go into conspiracy theories. But Donald Trump said, we want to change the government in Venezuela because we want their oil. These aren't my words. These are Donald Trump's words. They took over Chevron, which is Venezuelan owned. They took all the assets of Venezuela in America. He came out and said it. This is no secret. Many of the countries in the Middle East exist because their leaders play ball. Let's be honest. Let's be open about this. If you are a foreign leader and democracies, especially in the United States and other countries, are led by. America was founded by businessmen. It wasn't founded by policymakers. It was founded by a few businessmen who said, listen, this is how we can make the most money by getting rid of this king of England. And why are we paying taxes? He's way over there, right? So this is how the United States was founded. And this is how most democracies operate. If you're a 35-year-old kid who gets elected to be the president of France out of nowhere, and billionaires come to you and they say, listen, we need your help doing this, we need that. We control the media, we control the industry. You're going to do what they say. If anyone thinks that Macron or any president anywhere around the world, frankly, operates in a vacuum, they're just delusional. Donald Trump needs to raise $1 billion to get reelected. Where is he going to get this money from? If you look at any of these think tanks that we're talking about, whenever I see some think tank guys tweet something, I immediately go to their webpage and I check out who their major donors are, and the guy's defending a country, tooth and nail, and you say, well, your paycheck is being paid by this foreign country. You have to. I mean, what are you going to do? Come out against them? What do you think is going to happen after that? So if I was a country that sold Turkey billions of dollars worth of energy, and I see that that's going to be a problem in the future, that Turkey will no longer buy from me, I would not be happy with people who are trying to be self-sufficient, who are trying to explore. Yeah. Okay. So that's the thing,
Right.
So let me put on a mask. I've been told that I have to put a mask while I'm in here, so I apologize. But I hope you can still hear me. Yeah. I'll just go like this. Can you still hear me?
Okay, that's good. Yeah, you follow the rules. That's a good example.
That's right.
Taha.
That's right.
Maybe we should do it.
There's no one else in here, but
yeah,
yeah.
since we are at home, we don't
Anyway.
do it. Otherwise, we are not in public place.
That's right.
Right. I think that brings us to one critical issue, Taha, especially in the context of Middle East, when there is huge energy resources, also in Caucasus as well, I think. That is the energy security. Yes, we have energy here, and also we are trying to, excavate it, get it out. But there is a lot of, conflict in the region. You look at Yemen, you look at Syria. Having energy is not sufficient in itself. I think you need to have a political stability plus security of that energy. And how do you secure that? How do you establish energy security? What sort of dimensions you need? It's not only, I think, the army. It's not only the economic, maybe wealth. There must be some other things to secure the flow of energy, let's say.
Right. I mean, one of the things is diversification is very important. If your country that, the Soviet Union collapsed not because the Russian people suddenly were, aware of democracy and this and that. It collapsed because of the fall in the price of oil. That's the bottom line. If oil wasn't so cheap, the Soviet Union would have potentially continued for decades more. The Soviet Union collapsed because of money. That's the bottom line. Most countries collapse because of money. Most regimes collapse because of money, and that happened. So similarly, if there are countries that are dependent completely on energy, that's not a good thing. Putting your eggs in one basket. So even when Turkey does this, it's not going to be the vast majority of the country's economy won't be from this field. Ultimately, it might be if Turkey expands and does this elsewhere, and they find other reserves in all over the world, this and that. But you just have to be careful and make sure that you're not in a position where a manipulation of prices will cause you to go bankrupt. So these are all important things to keep in consideration.
Taha, we have some neighbors with energy resources. Iraq has lots of oil and gas. Iran has Russia, the same, and also Azerbaijan, not far from us. So how do you see the cooperation in the future? Because there are lots of conflicting interests, but also I think energy might bring different actors. Normally they may not get on well with each other, but energy might bring them on around the table. How do you see the potential power of energy for establishing some sort of peace, at least in the region?
So here's how one of the ways that could happen is Turkey can say, listen, we're extracting natural gas. It costs us this much to do it. How much are you paying? They can ask these countries, right? You have these foreign companies in your country extracting natural gas for you, extracting oil, crude oil, whatever. How much are you paying for these operations? The first thing that, when they do this, these countries can say, wow, we're spending so much more than we should be. And they can realize that, and maybe there's cooperation there. But even if they don't go and work with Turkey to help them in extracting these resources, they'll save money, and that money will go back to their country, will go back to investing in their country and allowing their country to prosper. And that's how countries survive. That's how communities and people and citizens, that's what they demand. So if that happens, if people are happy, if they have a house, if they have their kids have a better future than they had, then they're happy. So this is something that I think will, if war happens, when people aren't happy. War happens when people are hungry. War happens when there's inner conflict. So this will help bring about peace, I hope.
Now, I just would like to turn to Eastern Mediterranean from Black Sea. We mostly talked about Black
Right.
Sea. Maybe we made some references to Mediterranean. In the Eastern Mediterranean, there is a lot of debates, discussions going on. Also, I think there's a competition over there. And we know that in the
Right.
Eastern Mediterranean, bordering Syria, Lebanon, and Israel, there is a huge gas resources, but they were not able to get it out and then send it to the world markets. What are the reasons behind it,
Right.
first of all? Secondly, is it possible that by circumventing Turkey, that they can do it? Because that should go either from Turkey or through Egypt or through southern Cyprus or northern Cyprus. How do you see the scenarios when it comes to Eastern Mediterranean?
I mean, why they didn't already do this, that question I don't have an answer to. I don't know the logistics or the technical explanations for that. That's really not my field of expertise. I haven't researched it enough to be able to say anything on that. As for the other issue, I'm having a problem with math, I apologize. As for the other issue, how is it going to play out? I don't know. Really, these questions of sovereignty really boil down to power, right? So France has military might all over the world. What did France just send planes to Greece or something, or southern Cyprus? I forget recently. One of these things happened. Like, if you're willing to flex your muscles, you can get your own way. Are you a bully for doing this? Of course you are, but that's the way of the world. If how many? I think France is in 15 African countries. Their military is saving Mali, is saving Chad, is saving Gabon, is saving every country from themselves. Is that what the world is coming to? In short, I don't know how it's going to play out. We're really going to see if these Western countries are sincere in democracy. Are they sincere in talking about liberal economies and talking about liberal democracies and negotiating with countries and people? Great, then let's talk about it. But if it's just we're going to send our military and you can't do this because we say so, that's a different story. It just shows that they weren't they were disingenuous from the beginning. So hopefully it won't come to that, but we'll see what happens.
Well, thank you, Taha. My last question is about not oil or gas. It's about United States and the COVID-19.
Right.
How do they cope with it? Because
Okay.
you are there and you've been, I think, observing firsthand. Does it spread? I mean, what are the cases? What are the measures taken? What will happen to the businesses and also schools? Because I think schools are supposed to be opening very soon. What is the latest situation that you can share with us?
I think it's very different in the United States and other countries. I'm going to say this. I think freedom of speech, for example, in the United States is unparalleled. And maybe New Zealand or one or two other countries have as much freedom of speech. But these freedoms that Americans have grown up with make it difficult for policymakers to say, you have to wear a mask. You can't do this. You can't do that, especially in some states, just very foreign to them. So I was in Alaska recently, like I said, and I would say 90% of the people weren't wearing masks. Were not wearing. They just weren't. When I walked into a store with a mask, people were like, "Why does he have a mask on? Do you have the COVID? What's the problem?" No, I just took a test 3 days ago before I got on a plane. I'm negative. But so because of this mentality, it's going to be difficult for it to be controlled. It'll take time, and I think really everyone's just waiting for a vaccine. As soon as we get this vaccine, then we won't need this type of situation. But worse than even that, I mean, the health concerns are very bad. People dying is incredible. That's really bad. There's no debate about that. But the economic fallout from this virus, from this pandemic, will last 10 years in total. There is complete demand destruction. There are complete industries that are failing. There are tens of thousands, there are millions of people that are unemployed now that will continue to be unemployed after this pandemic passes, because that industry just disappeared. how are you going to come back from that? So this is something that policymakers have not responded to, and there's an election, so they don't want to go out on a limb. I think if Donald Trump, goes left of Biden and says we will have, mandatory minimum basic income for everyone, that everyone has dignity, and we'll make sure that everyone is taken care of, then he could very well win the election. This is something that Joe Biden has not said, despite being a Democrat. So people are looking for, in short, they're looking for a solution and an exit out of the pandemic, and it is yet to appear, and that's really sad.
Well, Taha, thank you very much for joining a TRT World Forum digital debate. Today we have discussed natural gas discovery in Turkey and its impact on the economy, security, and the energy diversification. It was a pleasure talking to you. Now we come to the end of digital debates. See you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye now.